The gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 30 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the third time that I've stood in this year on this floor about this subject. And I've been clear at every juncture. Racism, bigotry, and anti-Semitism will find no refuge in the people's house. We expect each other to speak fairly, truthfully, respectfully of all of our fellow members of Congress and of the President. Not because we agree with each other all the time, but because we have great respect for the Americans who elected us and to represent them from one end of Pennsylvania Avenue to the other. I come here today, Mr. Speaker, with much grief and many questions. The first may be procedural, but it is not trivial. The Democrats wrote a resolution last night. It is on the floor today. I just have a question. What happened to the 72-hour rule, ensuring members have an opportunity to review legislation, seek feedback from constituents before voting on it? What happened to regular order? This never came through committee. Why does the House have rules if the Democratic majority only follows them when politically convenient? And also, that was brought up in the rules debate that there was even no consultation with even others who would want to be a part of this. The President has every right to be frustrated with Congress for the work that we have failed to do on multiple fronts, including the border. I also understand that his recent tweets make it hard for us to move forward. Attacks are like quicksand. They trap and they defeat us before we know it. They're distracting us from legislating, and that was true when the lawmaker implied last week that a member of the House leadership was singled out newly elected women of color, and when other representatives were accused of enabling a racist system. It is true as we see little to no concern from my colleagues across the aisle when a foreign flag is raised over an American facility or a terrorist firebombed another facility. It is true when the President of the United States, out of frustration, tweeted this weekend, and it is true of many comments coming from lawmakers today. In fact, it is interesting for my chairman to say that they have called out the President every time, but also many times, and this is just a small listing of every week, that they've not called out their own members for things that I cannot read on this floor. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we are too quick, this Congress, to allow political ends to justify procedural means. But that is not democracy rooted in our unalienable rights. Rights, the second clause in this resolution affirms. The resolution is simply a lesson in political expediency. Integrity is a prerequisite to our covenant to govern by the consent of the people, which this resolution also affirms. We knew when we voted for the House rules of this January we could not, in this chamber, use certain language about other democratically elected leaders. We agreed to let ideas compete for our votes and use rhetoric as a tool to build bridges instead of as a kindling to burn those bridges down. Yet not a week goes by, as we've already pointed out, without members of this body issuing statements or tweets that I could not and will not read from this floor without violating our rules. And it is amazing but not surprising some of my colleagues are using this platform to call for impeachment, since many have been making that call since November of 2016. No justification then, and definitely not now. You see, Mr. Speaker, pleas for decorum aren't merely a refuge for lawmakers who find themselves in the minority. Decorum is a symptom of a healthy and confident democracy. When we can debate ideas on this floor, decorum ensures democracy's every voice can be heard. I would like to lend my voices to the chorus of lawmakers supporting the first 15 clauses of this resolution, but for the misguided title and the fourth page of this resolution, we could have had a suspension vote. To its credit, the resolution states the House of Representatives is committed to keeping America open to those lawfully seeking refuge and asylum. I agree. Everyone who votes for this resolution will now be on record as opposing illegal immigration, and I hope we can all work together to address the border crisis based on that common foundation. But again, you don't need a vote on this resolution to do that. You simply have to look at the border and acknowledge the crisis. But we will still have a problem with this resolution. We cannot, and by our own House rules, support a resolution that labels the President in this way, and I will not. The rules that have governed this body since the first United States Congress do not allow us to devolve in that way. However, it doesn't mean that we can't condemn racial or ethnic prejudice. It doesn't mean that we can't decisively reject anti-Semitism, as we have on this floor. But in my view, we've not done it so far in this Congress to that extent. We have failed and have both times on the clarion call of that process failed. I know some colleagues on both sides of the aisle would join each other in that conviction. Our own standards of decorum, however, in fact, empower us to welcome to America every person who respects our laws and wants our help and defend our freedom. These standards also give us a platform to admit when we and those around us make mistakes. When we consider the power of this chamber to legislate for the common good, I wonder why my colleagues have become so eager to attack the president, they are willing to sacrifice the rules, precedent, and the integrity of the people's house for an unprecedented vote that undercuts its very democratic processes. I wonder if the comments in view today are what some of my colleagues say they are. Why this resolution, they had to rephrase the resolution to make this point. The resolution condemns comments in a way that exposes the breathtaking partisanship of today's exercise. The resolution quotes only 3 words from the comment it rejects: the words "go back" and "invaders." Beyond those 3 words, the resolution substitutes its own phrasing and editorializing for the words this resolution has in view. Again, partisan show. That's why the tale of today's resolution is more of a political jab than anything else. It is therefore a signal for us to take a moment to look inward. I wonder if, when we're tempted to accuse our sister, our brother, our fellow American political foe, or even this Madam Speaker of racism. By the way, I do not believe the President is a racist. I do not believe the Speaker of this House is a racist. I do not believe the majority leader is a racist. I do not believe the minority leader is a racist. We can go down this line. I do not believe that. And while we insist on using this floor to litigate the propriety of statements made outside these walls, we assign a lot of wicked intent to a lot of tweets, even though 280 characters offers us at least the least context for making our points and endless potential for misunderstanding each other. To be fair, a lot of political speech today seems to be made to deepen our divide by highlighting our differences, and that is a cause for sadness. That is exactly why the rules of decorum in this body are designed to guard against. We have a choice this afternoon, Mr. Speaker. We can pursue escalation against our fellow Americans, or we can pursue reconciliation on their behalf. Only one of those options make room for this body to do its job, the legislating of solutions for the challenges of the American people. Many of the members in this chamber are my friends, and I'm thankful for the chance to work alongside each of them every day. But today, we renew our commitment to democratic ideals of this chamber by voting against a flawed resolution, against a political statement, against something that could not even be written in a proper way without adding editorial and paraphrased comments. I would ask each of my friends on both sides of the aisle to evaluate what is before them, evaluate what we have done, and evaluate what we don't take up for political convenience when it's our side saying it. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves.